What are the 12 essential areas to becoming a tax partner? That's exactly what Heather Townsend, our guest for this episode, shares with us. So, regardless of where you are in your tax career, if you think you want to, or you do want to become a tax partner, then this is a must listen. You're listening to episode 87 of the Tax Professionals podcast, the podcast that helps tax professionals to progress, develop, and improve their tax careers.
Welcome to the Tax Professionals podcast, the podcast dedicated to helping you improve your tax career. Here's your host, Jack Bonehill.
Hi everyone, and welcome to this episode. Right at the start of my career, I set my sights on becoming a tax partner one day. It felt like the right thing for me because I was ambitious, I wanted to succeed, and the remuneration seemed very attractive. But the thing is, there isn't much publicly available information or guidance to help with this. And since making the leap to partner is arguably the hardest thing you could ever do in your career, it can leave people lost. And that's why I'm so glad I came across Heather Townsend, who's dedicated the large majority of her career to being fascinated and figuring out what it takes to become a partner, and then helping people to achieve it. She's written multiple books, 2 of which are specifically related to being a partner, and she has sold over 30,000 copies of her books worldwide. And she's created a membership site, a bit like Netflix, on how to make or how to become a partner. She absolutely knows her stuff, and there's a good chance she's the most knowledgeable person in the world in relation to this. She's codified exactly what it takes to become a partner, and she's codified it into 12 distinct areas. The first 5 areas relate to the fundamentals for your career, and you can start working on these straight away, regardless of where you are in your career currently. The next 3 relate to winning work, which again you can start working on pretty much straight away if you wanted to, although in most cases, in reality, most people won't be able to get involved in this properly until around manager grade. The final 4 are probably the most difficult ones, and these relate to the final stages of becoming a partner, and you need to be at senior manager level really before you can properly start working on these. So in the episode, Heather goes through each of the 12 areas and provides details and elaboration in relation to each of these so that you can understand exactly what they are and have an idea of what it is you need to do. Rough timings for each section of this episode can be found in the details section of this episode within your podcast player of choice, or by heading on over to the show notes for this episode at thetaxprofessionalspodcast.com/TTPP87. The link to the show notes is the only link you need to remember because all other links mentioned throughout the episode are included in there. On top of listening to this episode, I can highly recommend you check out Heather and the resources that she has made available. She has plenty of free resources as well as paid ones. Being able to figure out the answer to a tax problem or query, regardless of the situation, in my opinion, is a fundamental career skill for any tax professional. But it's also one of those areas that many people find difficult and over-rely on their colleagues, hindering their progression. It's not surprising that people do this. Finding the right legislation and right HMRC guidance can be hard, and then once you do find it, you have to analyse it and understand it, which can be time-consuming and difficult. Helping get past these barriers and learning how to do these things is exactly what the Tax Research Masterclass is about. Past attendees have told me how much quicker it's made them at finding the right resources and then getting to the answer, to the extent that some of these people have become the known experts in their employer for doing this. I'd love for you to let me help you too. The full details of the masterclass can be found at thetaxprofessionalspodcast.com/masterclasses, and the next Tax Research Masterclass is scheduled for February 2024. If you're new to this podcast is all about helping you and other tax professionals to progress, develop, and improve your tax careers. We're on 87 plus episodes now, and they cover a wide range of topics, whether it's from helping people to pass the ATT and CTA exams, whether it's in relation to advice on how to get better at essential skills for working in tax, and a bunch of other things as well. There's a series I do called Tax Career Success Secrets, which is where I interview people who have had successful careers to find out exactly what it is that they've done to get there and kind of get into their mind a bit so that we can learn and take useful advice and tips away from their experiences. And also Tax Role Insight series, which is where I interview people who work in specific roles to find out what it is like to work in those roles, to help us figure out where we want to take our career. Anyway, that's enough about the podcast and everything else. So without further ado, let's get into the episode. Heather, do you mind just telling us a little bit about you, how your career has gotten to this point and what it is that you do now?
Yep. In 2004, I joined BDO as a learning and development manager. And at that point, I became fascinated about what really made the difference between those that accelerated their career beyond becoming qualified up to partner and those that didn't. And that led into this lifelong fascination of how do you go from being a good technician, so a good tax professional, knows the tax codes, knows the tax rules, knows how to apply it, to one that is seen as one to watch, one that then gets their career accelerated, and one that ultimately makes partner. So in 2009, I had the luxury of being told that I had a small amount of redundancy money and I was going to make my own way in the world. So I set up as an independent coach, which then led me to go really deep into what does it really take to become partner. So that led to me writing my second book, How to Make Partners to Have a Life, with actually my old boss, Joe Larby. And I was fixated about the idea of, how do I build a business around coaching people how to make partner? And I thought that people were really interested in the how do I make a life? How do I have a life bit of how do I make partner? And it bubbled along and it wasn't very successful as a proposition and a niche. And then I was phoned up by an American consultant and he just accepted, I quoted an extortionately high fee and he just accepted it. And he was really complimentary about me. And I was just like, oh. And all he wanted was help to get through his partnership panel interview, to get through that bit of the process. And I thought, you stupid woman, you absolutely stupid woman. People weren't prepared to buy the how to make partner. They were, I'm 0 to 3 years out from making partner. Will you help me get to partner? And I will spend whatever it takes. And that was the point where I really focused down on those last 3 years. So from senior manager to partner, what really made the difference? And in the latter years, how do you get a fast start as a new partner? What makes a difference? Sadly, my audience is growing up older and older. So really in the last 4 or 5 years, been looking at what is that fundamental shift from senior fee earner to business owner? What does it take? And it was actually at the start of COVID. And we had a bit of time to think, as you do at the start of COVID. And people have given us lots of feedback about, well, I've got to do this, Heather, and I've got to do that, Heather, and I've got to do this, Heather, and I've got to do that, Heather, and I've got to do this. And I'm like, they were getting overwhelmed. So we sat back and we really looked at what does it take to make partner. We actually codified it down into 12, whether you call them key indicators, crucial skills. And so we rewrote our book, Voice of Partnership, to really, first of all, because the world had moved on, we were now into the world of hybrid working as the norm, but also to really focus in on what are these 12 key skills and how do you get them, what's it all about, and how do you do that? So yeah, that's how this all came about.
Mm. Interesting. So you, right at the start, you kind of said like you're intrigued, like why some people made partner and some didn't. Obviously, in that pool of people that don't make partner, some of them don't want to, right? But there's also got to be some people who are in that pool who do want to become partner, right? I'm guessing that's very much what you focused on. It's those people who did actually want it, because there's plenty of people out there that don't want it, right? And that's completely fine if that's where their career is heading, and they're fine with that. Great.
Yeah, and I think we need to put this up right at the start for anybody listening here, that the most important thing is that you can wake up in the morning, look at yourself in the mirror and know that you're fulfilled. Now, too many people, particularly in the professions, particularly in the likes of tax, it's, you qualify, then if you go sort of maybe, accounting, and then you do your professional tax qualifications, there is always something new to learn with tax. So you're always on this technical, I've got to learn more, I've got to learn more, I've got to learn more. And you know what? If that's all you'll need, then don't feel you need to make partner. But so many people feel that the only, they're almost like, you stick an L on your face and you go, you're a loser if you don't want to make partner. No, you're a loser if you make yourself unhappy to do what you think society thinks is the right thing for you. You've got to do what is right for you and your career. And, and if making partner is right, then absolutely. But I want to make this absolutely clear. In fact, the second key skill that we're going to talk about is about direction. And it's all about, do I want to make partner, and is partner right for me at this firm? You have a duty to yourself. You have a duty to the people that care about you, friends and family, that you put your happiness first and then think about your career. And if going for partner is making you distinctly unhappy for the long term, not the short term, for the long term, and it's not what floats your boat, then don't do it.
Yeah. I think, there wouldn't be as much of a problem around this if you didn't have to say become partner to earn a certain amount, because I think there's this very linear way of progressing in the tax and accounting professions more generally, that almost to get more money, you have to move up the ranks. But really, I think it'll be much better in my ideal world, in my head, where if someone could just be, say, a complete technical specialist and they could earn a very good money too, maybe even as much as what some partners do now, because their skill set is very valuable in its own right. But the world as it is now doesn't seem to work like that. It seems that different skilled are valued to get that level of salary, if that makes sense.
And and this is the thing. You enter the world of the professions and suddenly 40, 50 grand a year is not enough. And if you went to your local supermarket check-here and said, would 40, 50 grand a year be enough? They'd probably go, yes. And so the thing we've got to realize is that when we enter the world of the professions, we're often looking at other people and realizing, whoa, those partners, particularly as a tax professional, you could go into a law firm and bringing home £1 million a year. Well, they're not, because there's tax bills on top of that. And your listeners know all of that. But we've got to get away from, got to be earning more. No, you've got to be able to pay your bills. You've got to, and actually, once you've paid your bills and you've got enough to support your lifestyle, you're not going to be motivated by more money. And that's the first thing you have to realize. And a lot of people think, oh, well, if I got an extra 10 grand, I'll be happy. No, you wouldn't. Once those bills are paid, you're fine. It's actually no longer a motivation. So the next thing to realize is, particularly if you stay in practice, you are there, and to use a recruitment phrase, to earn your seat. You are not there to sit in a seat and have fun. Yeah, of course you want to have fun at work, but you're there to earn money for the firm. And, most firms, it'll be a multiple of 3, i.e. 3 times your total salary cost has got to be the value you put back into the firm. And once you really get that fact that you need to earn money for the firm to prove justify your existence, then you understand a little bit why salary is linked to expertise, and expertise is typically linked to seniority. Because let's be honest, Jack, you and I have had nice conversations, and you said to me, oh, what you know about this stuff, wow, all of this sort of stuff. And you know what? That's 20 years worth of doing this. And, that's got far more value than when I first started this 4 years in, 5 years in. So we've got to realize the commercial realities. If the firm can sell you out at a very high charge out rate, either because you've got a very deep in-demand specialism or you're at a level of seniority, then you will generate more take-home pay. But you've got to be looking at it very differently. It's like, what value am I bringing to my firm? And, that actually ties in very nicely with that first crucial skill.
Mm-hmm.
I talk about mindset. Are you thinking and acting like a partner? And one of those big ones is, are you thinking and acting like a partner is when you're thinking about profit rather than revenue. When you're thinking about how do we generate more out of this pie rather than this lovely little bit of tax work in front of me. And that is the thing. A lot of tax professionals love tax. After all, why wouldn't you? It's got so much variety. It's great for problem solving. You get, it's, let's be honest, far more interesting than audit. Why wouldn't you like it? But the reality is, yes, your technical skills will always be in demand, even at a partner level, in a way that no other profession has. But if you can't win business, if you can't lead people, then you're a great technician and you are putting a ceiling on what your earning potential will be.
Yeah. But one thing I want to say before we move on, actually, because you mentioned about time, it allows you to develop more expertise. But I think some people get so caught upon, I've been here for 5 years, I'm due a promotion. Well, time doesn't necessarily equal better expertise and better skill, right? So
Yep.
Equally, time does help because it gives you the opportunity to become better, more time to become better, but it doesn't automatically make you better. And it doesn't automatically give you the right to a promotion or a certain role.
No, absolutely. It's have you got 5 years experience? Have you repeated the 1 year's experience 5 times? And, as somebody that advises the professions, there's a lot of work with tax people, actually. I'm always learning and always deepening my skill set, whether it's, and at the moment I'm working on an employment tax business case. And so it's really interesting getting into the depths of what does an employment tax specialist do? And I've spent time with transfer pricing people, and and COVID was horrendous. Let's be honest. You would never wish that on your worst enemy or a pandemic again, but it was amazing in terms of development. We probably learnt more in a year than we'd normally do in a decade. And so it is about really taking those opportunities that are in front of you and realizing that if you're going to get promoted, you already, and this is the first of our crucial skills, you need to be acting and thinking like the role you want to become.
Mhm.
Because otherwise, all you're doing is being a great manager or a great senior manager. People aren't looking for that. They're looking for the next director. Can you demonstrate you're acting at director level? Or they're looking for the next partner. Can you demonstrate you're acting at partner level? Just being great at your current role is not good enough.
No. And so I know for you then, Heather, that tax professionals obviously fall within like the larger pool of professionals that work in practice. But just so I suppose at least so unclear for me, in terms of the skills to be a partner, regardless of discipline, are they the same in your opinion?
Yes, yes. And we work with people all over the globe. We work with a huge amount from the very large practices. So think Big Four, the BDOs, the GTs, the Mazars. We work with, and it is literally all around the world. We will get as many people outside of the UK coming to work with us and join our Progress to Partner membership site than we will do in the UK. In fact, the last two people were Cayman Islands and Bahrain, as you do. You needed to know that, Jack. But I think that the key thing is that we've tested this skill set time and time again over these 12 skills over the last 3-4 years. And even the precursors of that, we've tested it, and partners have stood there and gone, yep, yep, yep. And they've gone through the checklist and gone, no, that's absolutely right. To the point that we only work with a few corporate clients, but the ones they do say, and we want your partnership readiness assessment that will demonstrate people self-assessed against these 12 crucial skills, and we want it tailored to our firm because we know this is what the stuff that they need. So absolutely, it doesn't matter whether you're tax in a law firm or a accounting firm or a consulting firm, whether you're a lawyer and come into that tax bracket, or whether you're in the other disciplines that we don't talk about. So I'm going to list out the first 12, and then I think it's about really thinking about particularly the first 5, because I know we will have got listeners that are at least 5 years off making partner. And those first 5 are the fundamentals to moving your career forward.
Okay.
So you can see them as the fundamentals to getting promoted. So I think it'd be worth looking at the first 5. So the first one is mindset. Are you acting, thinking, and feeling like the level you want to become? Too many people, as you say, go, I've been here 5 years, I deserve to be made whatever. Nope. You need to be already demonstrating that you're acting at the level you want to become. And a lot of that is driven by mindset, because we often get sent on courses, and that courses teaches us to do a skill. But that's sticking plaster. It's your mindset that really drives your behaviors, your habits, what you actually do, and then the outcomes. So the next thing is direction, which is, where do I really want to take my career? Do I want to get up to the senior manager, director, partner? And do I want to do it in this firm? Do I, dare I say it, do I want to go to the dark side and go to industry? And these are the questions you want to be pondering. And we were just talking earlier, Jack, about the fact that you've got a dog and you don't know what lions are at the moment. And, you have now taken on the role of dog daddy. And, it's thinking about, well, I know I'm being slightly flippant, but it is about, what roles do you want in life? What really makes you happy? Where is the right career trajectory for you? And absolutely, one of the best things you can do in life is go, I've got to my limit. This is how high I'm going to go. And I'm just going to be really good at being here. And you know what? That is a really freeing bit to know. So you then go to that, have I got a plan? So that, because we're busy people, we're all very busy people. When I talk about a plan, I'm not talking about something that you do just before your appraisal and then forget about. I'm not talking about something that you build to go, this is my development plan to get to the next level. When I talk about a plan, I talk about something that's focused, that's aligned to where you want to go. And most crucially, you look at it weekly and use it to prompt daily actions to help you focus your career development. And you will realize why that's very specific, because so many of us think we have a plan, but don't actually do anything with it. That's not a plan. That's a document you've stuck in the drawer. So the next thing is, do I have a support team? So I'm not, what you're saying, I'm talking about it. You think about any of those elite athletes, and they have huge numbers of people around them to help them be their best. And it's the same for you in practice. You are in a demanding role. You have demanding people around you. And this is a marathon, not a sprint. If you're going to get to the next role, you've got to be great at your current role, hit all your targets, and be demonstrating you can do the next role above. And just going from senior manager to director is hard enough, let alone to partner. And so who are the people you need around you? And we talk about mentor, sponsor, friends inside and outside of work, external coach, blah, blah, blah. And then finally, delegation. And there's a real subtlety with this. It's not just, are you able to delegate, but do you have a team to delegate to? And have you built and you might be in a matrix environment where you just have a pool of resource. It's like, have you actually got your chosen crew to a level that you are willing and able to delegate to? And I talk about the fundamental. If you think about it, Jack, one of the first training courses you ever had on soft skills was about delegation. And as a result, we all think we can do delegation. And in fact, our partnership readiness assessment literally has, for that one, it's the most scored one ever. We've had over 1,000 people take it. Most highest score, yet we do it. However, when we work with people on a one-to-one basis who are on programs in their firms to make it to partner, the biggest weakness is delegation. And you're like, what's going on here? So I'm going to reframe it in terms of, it is about systematic delegation. It's about ruthlessly delegating. So it is literally about that whole, instead of thinking, should I delegate it? Or think it should be, I am delegating unless you can give me a strong enough reason not to. So those are the first 5 that I really want to spend time digging into with you, Jack. I'll then quickly cover the next 3 and then the next 4. The next 3 is, can I win work for my firm? Now, when I first started in BDO back in 2004, and I know, Jack, you're thinking, you're old. I'm not old. I started very young. At that point, say in the mid-tier, it was possible to be a brilliant technician, not great with clients, and still make it to partner as a tax professional. Because tax has the luxury of being a skill set that's really easy to value price, i.e. get super profits out of, get away from billing by time. And it's also something that opens doors and people need. So it was still then just about possible to make partner being a great technician. Those days are gone now. You have to be able to win work. Now, for most people as a tax practitioner, in a lot of firms, they are a secondary supplier. In fact, there are some firms that, won't even have in their strategy that the tax professionals will go out and win their own work. They're just going to service the existing firm's clients. So we're looking at about, can you win work for your firm? So there's 3 key indicators here. There's the go-to expert. Have I got a known specialism? Can I attract people to me for the right reasons? And typically most of us in tax already have that, whether you've gone into indirect tax or whether you're a, business tax specialist. But for the tiny firms, businesses, we all very quickly in tax have a niche. Then the second one is referral networks. Do I have the people that will send me work within my network? So that's about, and for most tax practitioners, that is about people within my firm. That internal firm marketplace is key. Then you've got do I have a daily business development habit? And, it's all very well going, I can win work and I come out to feed when I'm quiet. That's not going to get you to build up a big business, the sort of business that demonstrates you're ready for partnership. It's about, how do I do a bit of business development each day? How do I just get it into what I do every day? And then the last 4 are all about your business and personal case. So your personal case is how I am demonstrating to you that I'm acting at the level of a partner in the firm. And we actually split the personal case into 2. The logical stuff that's coded into the competency framework that is right or wrong and can be seen and measured. And we call that personal case. We then have something called member of the club. And that can't be measured. That's about a gut feeling from your partners that they know you, like you, and trust you enough to make you up to partner, that they see you as one of them, that they know if the chips are down, you're going to be fighting with them, in arm-to-arm combat in the trenches. Yeah, and I think my partner actually said that phrase to me. So it is about that emotional, do I want you? It's about, do turkeys vote for Christmas? Of course they don't. You can hit all the checkpoints on a competency framework, but if you're going to cause conflict, arguments, and people frankly don't like you, you're not going to be made partner. And that's about this member of the club indicates. Then, have you built a business case that demonstrates the commercial promise of making you up to partner? And finally, are you going to get through, and are you doing the right things to get through the partner admissions process? So I'm just going to recap. First 5 are about, can I get promoted? Am I building the foundation to move my career forward? Next 3 about, can I win work for my firm? And the last 4 about your personal business case to make partner.
I'm just going to throw potentially a curveball out there. So you've said about like it's important that the partner does a bit of BD every day, and you've also talked about delegation being key. Why can't they delegate the business development?
And often people do, and the best partners are getting their team to get involved in business development very early on in their career. And that's everything from, come along to this pitch with me, come and listen to me in this meeting. Some of the bigger firms, and yes, that's more likely in the corporate finance teams and the restructuring teams, will actually give their quite junior people a budget of time and money to go and lunch the right people. And the thing is, and so why can't the really junior people suddenly become great work winners? And here it is when you're winning work with clients, people want to trust that you can do the work. And that often comes with a level of expertise, authority, credentials. And as a newly qualified, you might be keen, you might be able, you just don't have that credibility that a partner will do. And very often, when you get to what I would call the interesting tax planning or tax project works, your clients are looking for someone that's been there, done that, got a certain level of expertise, has worked on the big stuff, understands what it's like to be in the C-suite. And as a junior, however enthusiastic you are, however good you are as a tax practitioner, you've just not got the years under your belt. And that's why you often see that it is only the partners that can bring in the big M&A type tax planning type deals, because they've built and nurtured a network, they've built the credibility, they've got the brand there that's seen as trustworthy, that attracts the work. However, a good partner is making sure that the juniors in their team are starting to build their network from an early age, that they are getting involved in business development, and understand why they need to build strong relationships and why it's important to have a strong personal brand and a strong portfolio in the marketplace.
Just for complete clarity, do you mind just listing each of those skills one by one? Because as I was noting that as you were speaking, I've got some blanks somehow.
It's fine. I know that I don't talk about this stuff all the time. Mindset, direction, plan, support team, delegation. First 5. Next 3, go-to expert, referral networks, business development habit. Last 4, personal case, member of the club, business case, partnership admissions process.
Just a reminder, if you want to solve any tax problem and be able to use HMRC guidance and tax legislation, then the Tax Research Masterclass could be exactly what you need. Head on over to thetaxprofessionalspodcast.com/masterclasses for full details. That's thetaxprofessionalspodcast.com/masterclasses. Link will also be in the show notes and also in the details section for this episode within your podcast player of choice.
So you said you were really keen then to talk about first 5 the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Because a lot of people think and get into the habit of going, oh, I've got to do my business case and then just write it out and then I'll be fine. And your business case is something you grow over the years. It's not something that you just write down and suddenly have. And for many of your listeners, they're not going to be there. So I want to make sure that we're really looking at the fundamentals of those first 5 that will be applicable to any of your listeners, whether they are just qualified with their CTA and keen or whether they're slightly more jaded, a year away from making partner, thinking, do I want this?
Okay. So I think maybe I'm wrong with this, but mindset, I feel like most people who have been progressing up anyway kind of understand the mindset of you got to be thinking like, what does that next grade do? So then you can start doing it before you get there, rather than just hope it's going to come from the experience. I mean, is there much more to it than
Yeah,
that, really?
there's a huge amount to it. And interestingly, once you can get the mindset bit sorted, everything else becomes much easier. So where do we see conflict on mindset? So the first one we see is, well, I've got to hit my billable targets, which is a massive one, isn't it? It's been drummed into you since day one in a professional services term. Hit your own billable time targets. And, you've got league tables and you get bonuses on this, and you have difficult conversations if your you're not hitting your targets. So understandably, you have a mindset to hit your own billable hours target. But actually the mindset we need you to be in is that, you have to hit it, but it's not about overhitting it. It's about making sure you've got time to build a team. You've got time to go and win work. And nobody, well, of course, unless you're in law on an 8-hour day, 8-hour chargeable time day and tax in the law firm. But reality is there's always a little bit of time available for the other stuff. But if you just max out your billable time targets, you're demonstrating that you're not thinking, I'm ready for the next level up. So that's number one. And you would have thought, oh, that makes a lot of sense. So the next thing we often see is, if you're really truly acting and thinking like a partner, or anybody that's actually serious about the development, you will drive your own development. It's not about going, well, I'm going to wait until I get coaching from my firm, or I'm going to wait until the next training course, or my firm owes me. The reality is it's your career. Only you can drive it. The firm you're in is a vehicle for your career to progress, but it's your firm doesn't owe you anything apart from a fair day's pay for a fair day's work. And, you see the mindset of those that are willing to drive their own development, that spend time on their development plan, not just when they're quiet, they spend time on their development plan. They'll even, pay for things like our Progress to Partner paid membership site, that they will willingly go out and do stuff themselves to drive their career forward. And you really do see that distinction. So those are some of the mindsets that you do see. But hopefully you can see, Jack, that it's not just about, I've got to work at the level above. It is a more fundamental. And, when I see people struggling to fit in time to business development or struggling to delegate well enough, I realize it's never a business development skill set issue or a delegation issue. It's always down to mindset. And until you fundamentally get what is the role I want to go into, what is that role all about, and fundamentally get how do you succeed in that role, you're always going to struggle with the behaviors that you're doing.
Yeah, no, I agree. I had a separate conversation a few days ago. Actually, it was more to do with the exams, the tax exams, and I just said, like, really, the mindset and how you think about these exams drives the actions. And if you've got a good mindset, you'll drive good actions. If you've got a bad mindset, you'll drive bad actions.
Yep,
It's the
absolutely.
exact same here, really. Yeah.
But it is about the nuances, and a lot of people in tax can't see further than the piece of client work on their desk.
Yeah.
And that's a mindset issue. It's, if you can't see further than the piece of client work on your desk, then you're not planning well enough. That suggests that you don't have a development plan, so you're not driving your own development. That suggests that you're not in control of your day, which also suggests that you have problems with setting boundaries and expectations. And you can start to see this rolling on, can't you? But it's a mindset issue.
Yeah. With direction then. So I'm probably going to always try and oversimplify things because that's what I like to do. And you're going to tell me, no, there's way much more to it than that. So I'm completely ready for that. But with the direction then, is that just about thinking, where do I want to go? Will I be happy there? Does it align with my personal and work motivations, or is there more to it than that again?
No, you're spot on. This is quite a simple one. This is really what makes me happy. What are my values? What's my purpose? What's my identity? at a simple level, if you always see yourself as great with clients, the grafter doing the work, that identity doesn't match up with partner, which is about a leader of the business. And sometimes you think, oh, but that's a silly thing. But actually those identity issues, particularly if you would class yourself as ethnically diverse, if you class yourself as somebody with a neurodiversity, and you don't see yourself represented at a partner level, you will also be asking, is this the right, will I ever belong in this firm? It is about that feeling of, do I belong in this firm or am I trying to fit in? Am I proud to tell people I work at this firm? And then it's a big one. If you're not proud to tell people you work at this firm, you're not in the right place. Because as a partner, you're going to be really part of the infrastructure and responsible for, perpetuating that infrastructure and that culture. And if you're not proud of that firm and don't want to tell people, then there's a problem. If you're embarrassed that you're a tax professional when you're amongst your friends, that's a problem. So yeah, but you are right. It is about, am I in the right role? What makes me happy?
So the plan then, I think we probably don't need to spend too much time on that, but because you covered a lot of it already,
Yeah.
it's not about having like a super detailed, rigid plan that never changes, right? It's about having something that helps you get to where you want to be, which you look at regularly. So then you're doing something each week to
Yeah.
slowly move towards it and not just
Mm.
do what you said before, focus, say, on completely just doing billable work and neglecting those outside things.
Yeah, and I just want to go in a tiny bit more detail. So the first thing is, when we start with that people might come off listening to this podcast and they go, I've got to put a plan, and I put in a plan. And often there's too much in there. And look, if you're struggling to spend any time on your development, you're not going to suddenly be able to spend 3 hours a week on it. So the first thing we always say is be realistic. Get a habit started. So if Friday morning is going to be your morning that you're going to do a little bit on your career development or review where you've got and put that in. So that's the first thing. The second thing is traditional goal setting is that a lot of people have been taught, leadership 101, set a goal, break it down into milestones. You need a goal that's going to help you. Actually, they've discovered that often goal setting hinders your progression. What goal setting is really good is for short-term motivation and accountability. And I know that sounds strange, but you think about those people that are training for a marathon. They run the marathon. How many people then run another marathon? What we're looking for, particularly in the professions, is sustainable levels of high performance. And the only way to get those sustainable levels of high performance is get the right habits and behaviors underpinning them. It's not actually about the goal. Now, what does work with goal setting is short-term accountability. So we talk about a one big focus. In the next 90 days, what is it that you're going to achieve and move forward? And if you're only focusing on that, what is it? How are you going to do it? What does that look like? And that's how we talk to people about plans. Yeah, our partnership readiness assessment will show you the areas you need to go into, but it will also help you prioritize. But don't try and do everything at once. Do it step by step, break it down, use your one big focuses to move things forward rather than trying to hit everything in one go.
The support team element then, to me, maybe I'm wrong, but I'm going to give you what I've taken away so far. So the support team for me is very much about getting those people that you can delegate to and support you with your weaker areas so that they complement you and I suppose help you have that time to focus on those bigger partner style tasks rather than being that person that's just doing work all the time.
Well, no, for me, I draw a distinction. Having people to delegate to is all about the delegation key indicator. Your support team is building the people around you. Think about it like your personal advisors. So what is it that I'm meaning about that? It is, if you're going to get promoted, your department lead, the partner, is going to have to recommend you for promotion. So part of your support team is what I would call that sponsoring partner. And, if you don't get on with the key decision maker and you're part of the practice, your career is going to struggle. That's number one. Number two, I always recommend that people get a mentor. And ideally, somebody outside of your service line. So there's very few of us that have the luxury being in a tax boutique. Whether in a law firm, whether in an accountancy firm, there are other service lines. And depending on the firm, they could be the headline acts, the glory lines, whatever it is. You doing what you do need to make sure you're known by the right people, that you know the movers and groovers, that the right people, the right influencers are talking about you. And having a mentor outside of your service line can really help you with that, because it gives you an insight into the rest of the firm. Particularly at a Big Four level, part of your commercial knowledge, part of your knowledge about the general firm will get tested. And if it is weak, you will not make it through your partner panel interview. They are not just looking for the expert in transfer pricing on service-based businesses. They're looking for somebody who is the expert on transfer pricing for service-based businesses, that understands how their bit fits into the firm, that understands the key service lines for the firms, that understands how the firm makes money. It is that level that people are looking for. Now, you're going to need friends inside and outside of work. Why do I say that? Because there are times for your own sanity where you're going to need to say some very unsavory words about people in your firm. You're going to need to let off and vent some frustration. That's why you need friends outside of work, because you need to be able to do that at a very simple level without it being a career limiting move. Then, of course, you need friends at work. We have to be able to enjoy what we do. So yesterday, my team and I, we were just cracking up. And we were just literally laughing our heads off for about an hour. And it was like the most fun at work I've had for a long, long time. And you're like, wow, this doesn't feel like work. And when you've got friends at work, it can at times not feel like work. And that is when you can start to be at your best. But what else do you need? You might want an external coach if you've got some stuff around it. But, I'm imagining, Jack, we've got some people that are either thinking about having a family or do have a young family. So you will need some help with your home life. And look, you look at the chargeable hours that people are required to do. You look at the fact that life's administration and stuff is still there. And then you look at the hours in the day. Do you really want to be cleaning for 8 hours at the weekend? Or would it actually be a better use of the money that you get highly rewarded for as a tax professional to spend some of that money on allowing you to outsource the kind of not so interesting parts of your life, to allow you the time to spend with people that are interesting and that brings you joy? I mean, there are some people that love ironing and they're absolutely, they're not normally part of my tribe, but each to their own. And then the final thing you need is something called sponsors. Now, we talked about the sponsoring partner, but sponsors find you. You don't find them. Now, go back to 20 years ago, and I know I'm sounding old again, Jack, so just apologies for that. Those are the days where a mentor would do the sponsor role. They would be a real advocate for you. They'd help you based on their experience. They would open doors for you. They would talk up for you in meetings, all of this sort of stuff. Whereas now, everyone's expected to have a mentor, and there are only so many hours in the day. So your mentor typically now is only doing based on my experience, this is my suggestion you do, that sort of, what did I do? How can my experience help you? Which is why sponsors are so vital. The more people that are advocating for your career, that think you are brilliant, the better for you. And those are the people that I would say are the true members of your support team that you need.
Got it. Just purely because of time, let's not go into delegation, because I've already got a few episodes out there, and I'm sure it's not exactly the same stuff that you talk about,
exactly.
but there's a lot out there about it, isn't there? And you kind of said, really, it's the mindset shift between, oh, can I delegate this? It's, I want to delegate everything unless there's a good reason not to. That's probably a real key point in that.
It is both, as I said earlier in this podcast, am I delegating, and have I built a strong team, even if I have a resource pool, a strong team that I trust to delegate to?
Mm-hmm. So 6, 7, and 8 then. So you categorize them as like one grouping as well. I mean, the way I'm looking at it is that it all relates in some way to winning work, because the go-to expert element of it is, why are people going to come to me? And I'm guessing the reason is that it's because you're the expert in that area. You're the person they need at that moment in time. The referral side, again, you want referrals because you want to win work. But then when you talk about just BD, which was 8, I think, how is that different to the rest of them? Because to me, those two are elements of BD. What's different?
Right. So your business, so the last of that business development was a business development habit. So you could be the eminent expert in indirect tax for manufacturing businesses, and you could be known for that. You could have a network that knows of you, trusts you, and whatever. But if you get stuck on a deal and you don't raise your head up and you basically put up that I'm working, I can't take on any work, how much work are you going to get through the door? Very little. And I've seen it time and time again happen to people where they've got the first two, they've got the network, they've got the expertise, and they stop really looking at how do I get my name out there? How do I keep my plan ticking along? Because I've got so much work, whether it's busy season, with personal tax returns, whether it's a succession of a lot of M&A work, deals coming through, restructuring work, whatever it is, whether it's, you're in the hot world and tax investigations at the moment, and you've got fund decoding, the revenue making up its own rules. I digress slightly. If you are not doing a little bit of business development most days, people will forget about you. The leads will dry up. So it's so important that you have the expertise, you've built the network, and you're doing a little bit every day to get work towards you. Otherwise, you're going to feast and famine, and that's painful.
So is that BD habit any more than regular contact with these people?
Yes. Right. Here is the problem. Most people in the world of tax have been taught that the most important thing they do is do their billable time. Most important thing they do. As a result, business development is always relegated to when it gets quiet. When it gets quiet, either never comes or you then get into feast and famine. Whereas the reality is, if you're going to get into senior manager, director, partner roles, you've got to realize that business development is part of your day job. Part of that mindset shift, which is always about keeping your eyes open. It's always about doing a little bit each day. It's about having that plan and making it happen. And actually, it's a massive predictor. You hear partners in firms going, oh, I can spot the new partners within their first day of joining the office as a junior. And you're like, yeah, of course you can. I've heard that so many times. I can literally spot when somebody is on a program who's going to make it, who's not, by how well they just get on and do some business development each day. If they leave it until they're quiet, I know that they're not going to make it until they turn that one around.
Yeah. I wonder, it depends, because from what I've personally seen, there's definitely people who are partners who don't do like a daily or even close to a daily habit. But maybe that's because they've become so well known, so old, maybe in some cases, dare I say, that they almost don't need to do it anymore, because they might even have their eyes set on retirement instead at that point.
And the thing is, you are not seeing a lot of what they're doing. So you're not seeing them having those one-to-one conversations with clients. You're just going, oh, they're doing client work. But no, it's client work and they're being curious. You're not seeing them doing a little bit of extra emailing and picking up the phone to existing clients. How are you? You're not seeing that stuff. You're not seeing them around the partnership table, making sure they've just spoken to all the audit partners and all the corporate finance partners in the last month. You don't see that. That's business development as a tax professional, in the same way that, you and I, Jeff, have got to know each other because of what I do on LinkedIn. You know that if I've not posted on LinkedIn, something's gone slightly wrong in my day. And you see that as a regular activity. You've got to remember that there are many different ways to win work. And then a traditional old school partner is going to be doing a lot of meeting of people. And we might just go, oh, it's the partners hanging out together. No, that's business development as a tax professional.
Yeah.
You might go, oh, they're lunching the client again. Why can't they just finish the work they've got to do? And yes, they'll be talking about the work, but that partner will be interested in the client and picking up extra bits of work. My team used to call me a rainmaker, and they could not understand why I seemed to sneeze and a piece of work appear. And they said, well, you don't do anything. You just have a conversation. You win work. What are you doing? And what they weren't noticing was those 20 years of daily grind of putting stuff in, getting good at my craft, and looking for opportunities all the time, which is why I can sneeze and a piece of work appears. And we often don't recognize business development is a huge set of activities, and we've got to pick the right one for us.
Yeah, I think that's the key point. Is actually there's a lot of things that you might not think are business development, but in reality, they are, as you've just pointed out.
Yeah.
In that last category, but what are like the headlines then for those last four?
I think I'm going to sum it up by Rome wasn't built in a day. And we often think that business case equals spending time one weekend writing out a business plan and a bit of nice wordage to say I should be a partner. No, your business case is something you often build over 3 years. It's where you demonstrate that you can increase the profits of your partnership by the fact that you've built a business. You're no longer talking about your clients. You're talking about the business and practice you've built. And I think that's a fundamental, because once you get that, you understand what it's actually about.
Nice and easy. I wasn't expecting a one-line summary. Nailed it.
I can be short if I need to. You are on my favourite topic, Jack.
I know, and that's why we can't fit all this into an hour podcast episode. But what resources do you have available then for people to use who are keen to become tax partner? Where is it they should go?
So the first thing is that you need to know your dartboard, i.e. where are my gaps? What do I need to aim for? The partnership readiness assessment will assess you against those 12 key indicators. And it will demonstrate which ones you need to work on. And they go in priority. So the first ones, mindset, direction plan, are far more important to get right than the ones at the end, because they all build. And that's free. And I know it will be in the show notes for people to go in and do that. Not a problem. Now, you're going to get that and you're going to go, I've heard Heather say, I want to drive my career. And I want to drive my career, but I don't want to wait for my firm and I want to do it for my things. And that's why we put together Progress to Partner. Think of it a little bit like a Netflix for your career development. So you can pop in and out. If you're really pushing hard, you can do some of our courses. If you're just kind of going, oh, I need some help on, you can download one of our very quick videos to watch. Very much think of it as like Netflix for your career. Loads of videos on demand, monthly, live, virtual workshops. I know some of your audience is global. We run it 3 times during the day, so we catch most of the time zones. And I know, Jack, that you're putting a link in the show notes, and there'll also be a special offer for people that listen to this. We'll make sure there's a discount code for people that listen to this podcast.
For people who actually want to come and talk to you directly for whatever reason, where's the best place for them to go for that?
Absolutely. Email me at heather@heathertownsend.co.uk. So that's heather@heathertownsend.co.uk. Or come and find me on LinkedIn and just say, I heard you on Jack's podcast. I love hearing people have listened to me. Shame my teenagers don't.
Yeah.
I'm super grateful that Heather has been able to codify what it takes to be a tax partner. I'm not far from this part of my own career journey now, and her resources are exactly what I need at this moment in time. Take a look at her How to Make Partner website and her Progress to Partner program. There are free and paid for resources, and the ones you have to pay for are priced, in my opinion, very reasonably. So go and take a look at those. Show notes for this episode can be accessed at thetaxprofessionalpodcast.com/TTPP87. And in the show notes, there's a link for more details on my masterclasses, as well as details on how to get in contact with Heather and links to her resources. If you enjoyed the episode, you can sign up for email notifications to make sure you don't miss out on any future episodes. Head on over to thetaxprofessionalpodcast.com/subscribe to do this. Episodes are bi-weekly and released on Mondays. But that's it for this episode. Hope you enjoyed the episode and have taken away some useful points to help you to progress, develop, and improve your tax career. Until next time.